Ask any black person, African American person you know about their cop story. They all have a cop story. Do you yourself have a cop story?
I do have cop stories. I mean, which one do you want to hear? I can talk about.
Well, he's got
when I
some
was
to
in
choose
school.
from. He's got a list.
Yeah.
We have a caller that we're about to call right now. He's a good friend of mine, also a really good contact. His name is Lamar Butler. He's an HBCU grad. He graduated with a degree in forensics. He is currently a teacher in South Carolina, and he's got big plans. He's also an activist and a motivational speaker, so he has a lot to say.
Yeah, no, I'm really
on what's going on.
I'm really excited to hear that.
Hey, Lamar.
Hey.
One criticism that I've seen online is, why did we wait for 2020 for Black Lives Matter to hit the media again? Why is it that it's always before an election?
I want it to be understood that the media is controlled by whiteness. And when I say whiteness, not necessarily white people, but the idea of white supremacy. That's what the media is controlled by. So Black Lives Matter is a movement that never ended. It always kept going. People have always still been fighting, but they're not going to publicize it. Why? Because they wanted to make it seem like it's this thing that pops up every now and then. It only pops up when something bad happens. Nah, it's always been there. So you're not going to see it because we don't get to control the media outlets. If blacks had more power and could put what we wanted out there more easily, because we do in some ways, but if we had the level of access and the level of ability to just put out what we wanted to put out for our people and for the world to understand, it would look a lot different. The media wouldn't be the same. But when we don't get to control the media outlets, they can shut Black Lives Matter down as a thing on their networks all day long until it comes to election cycle, because what happens now, you need something to invigorate the black vote. You need a candidate needs to have something to talk about of why they are going to galvanize the black people. Like, we understand that Hillary Clinton pretty much lost because she couldn't galvanize the black vote. We didn't get out to vote for her. So, like, now another election cycle is coming. It gives those who are running in office something to talk about. It gives them a chance to say, okay, I care about black people. Whether or not they really do, that's a whole different story. But it at least gives them something to talk about, and now it's in the media again because of the election cycle. That's it. We don't control it. It's not our fault.
That is something that I noticed as well, that the attention doesn't go on there until they need them to mobilize. We have a couple of questions on the chat here as well.
We do have a chat that does say, I'm going to read it out loud to you, and I just want you to respond to it if you can. But it says, BLM doesn't care about blacks killed by other blacks in Chicago, but when whites do it, everyone gets outraged. I do have my own opinion about that, but this kind of goes back into, I think we did have a conversation about it some years back, on this term black on black crime. Just because we never hear white on white crime, we never hear Asian on Asian crime. Would you mind speaking to this notion of black on black crime?
The notion of black on black crime simply comes because regardless of how we want to look at the diversity in America, when you look at groups of people, they typically are living and breathing and really being active in places and spaces that look like them for the most part. Like, even though America is diverse, black people live around black people, white people live around white people, Asians live more so around Asians, or they might live in a more mixed community, right? But blacks and whites are definitely going to be separated. Like, that's just something, especially coming from my experience here in the South. Black people moving to a neighborhood is white flight. So then when it comes to black on black crime, that's just really a myth, because it's like it's not like I'm choosing to commit a crime against a black person. I'm committing a crime in the area in which I live, and I'm sorry that the people around me are black. Like, that ends up being the circumstance. But they like to say black on black crime because what it does, it demoralizes the whole effort of saying Black Lives Matter. It demoralizes the whole effort that blacks love blacks. It demoralizes that entire movement because you're going to look at, well, you are killing each other. So what happens? It's like, well, white people shoot white people too. I know white people who rob white people. I know Asians who rob Asians. Like, so we all can say we know people who are robbing and killing and committing crimes in their communities against people that look like them. But that's only brought up with black people, and that's kind of unfair. It's only done because we have blacks trying to make an effort to say, like, this is being done specifically against us. And you only hear black on black crime when people talk about the system of oppression in which blacks are forced to be in a life of crime. I just think it adds to the system. It's the system just trying to figure out another way to silence a black voice.
This actually was a question that was posed in my college class when I was still attending. Someone, while we were discussing, Uncle Tom's Cabin and the subjects of race and discrimination, the one black person in the class had basically said, every black person, ask any black person, African American person about their cop story. They all have a cop story. And that particular girl, she was stopped on her way into the school because the cop didn't believe that she went to our school.
Wow. Jeez.
So, I just want to know, to speak truth to the matter, do you yourself have a cop story? Because I know you have outside of the state stories.
Definitely got outside the state stories with law personnel. I do have cop stories. I mean, which one do you want to hear? I can talk about.
Well, he's got some
stories.
He's got a list. Yeah. He's pulling out his folders.
I can talk about when I was 18 and my friend and I were riding around in a neighborhood. We had gotten lost. We took the wrong turn and we were riding around in a predominantly white neighborhood. We didn't do anything illegal. We didn't have any guns, no drugs, no nothing. We were young kids. We had snapbacks on, we had hats on, and we didn't have tinted windows. All of a sudden, we get pulled over, and two cops get off the car. One comes to my side, and one comes to his. The cop talking to him, is saying, like, you're driving left to center. First of all, I've never heard anybody getting pulled over for driving left to center. I didn't even know that was a thing.
What?
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I don't know what that is.
So they run down asking him all these questions, and then the other cops start asking me questions like, where's your ID? Do you have any weapons in the car? Are you on drugs? Do you have any drugs? Do you have any alcohol? And I'm like, I'm not even driving the car. Why are you talking to me? I shouldn't even be interacting with you.
Wow.
What the hell?
And then he starts talking. Then I give him my driver's license, and he asks me if I'm in college. And I tell him I'm in college, and he starts talking about me drinking a lot of alcohol. I'm like, sir, if you read my ID, I'm underage. Why would I even, first of all, if I did drink at that time, why would I admit it to a cop? And you see I'm underage. But secondly, as a cop, you see I'm underage. Why are you trying to ask me these type of questions? So it becomes like this thing of where they were looking to get us in trouble. Like they asked, could they search the car? And he said, no, here's the only thing I got. And he showed them he had a little knife in his glove compartment. It's like, that's it. That was it. And they let us go. Like no tickets, no nothing. They just let us go after they asked us all these questions. I remember being pulled over in Alabama because we forgot to turn our turn signal on. And the cop comes out and he's trying to search the car, saying we got drug residue everywhere. And it's like, we don't even do drugs, sir. Like, where is all this coming from? Again, once they can't find anything, they just let us go. I've been pulled over multiple times by cops for no good reason, highly questioned. And I can say, like, we've remained calm in most of those situations. We didn't get an attitude, and we knew, like, if we want to get out of this,
I don't think you were allowed to get an attitude. You wouldn't have been able to get away with it.
Despite the fact it would have been justified.
We knew what was at stake every time we got pulled over, and it was always, I was always with one other person or a group of people. It was never just me that was pulled over. And thank God for that, because I don't know what interactions happen when I'm just wrongfully pulled over, and it's just me. I don't know what would happen. So.
Were you ever taught how to deal with police, or did you kind of learn that on your own?
For me, my grandmother was a law enforcement officer, so she was a probation parole officer, and so she told me some things growing up about being respectful and don't do this. So I kind of knew, like, the general. I didn't get the hands on the steering wheel, don't move too fast. I didn't get those type of talks. That I actually heard from friends. Like that, I actually learned, like, talking to my friends in college. I just knew that I had to talk to them, like, I had to be respectful. I did not raise my voice. I did not have a shifty tone. Like, I knew I had to be calm in the situation, thanks to my grandmother. But all the other rules of a natural traffic stop, I learned in college. Like, I learned talking to my friends whose parents sat them down and told them, here are the rules of a traffic stop. Here's what you do. I just knew, like, police officers, they might not like me because I'm black, so I have to give them every reason to smile and be happy with me.
So you have to try harder to get people to like you because of your skin color.
Yeah, like, I'm going to be extra polite when they walk up to my car. Like, I'm being extra polite to you because I don't know if you're having a bad day or not. And if you're having a bad day, you might want to shoot me. I'm sorry. So I'm trying to put a smile on your face before we do anything else.
Wow.
Do you have to put on a white voice?
My dad told me to talk in a white voice from a young kid.
Ever since, even before I had my license, I was taught how to react, how to act when it comes down to it. And it was the craziest thing for me the day that I was in a car with a friend of mine, a white friend, and she was just talking back, talking so much. I was like, "Why are you pulling me over?" I was like, "Girl, you're gonna get me killed!" Like in the back. And like he started asking me questions as well. And like I said, I felt like I had to use a white voice, which was speaking in a higher tone. You know, as though
Sounding more
like
pleasant.
Not seeming aggressive.
Yeah.
Or anything.
Like taking your hands out of your pocket.
like
Slang.
yeah, is that something that you feel like you have to do as well?
I wouldn't say I feel like I have to. I think it's just natural. I don't know. I feel like it's natural because I think naturally as a black person, when you grow up, Tiny Coates does a really good job in his book Between the World and Me of how blacks grow up in two different worlds, and we naturally learn how to code switch without thinking about it. We're code switching. We're changing the way we talk. We're changing the words we use. We're changing how the mannerisms we have depending on what group of people we are around. When I go when I'm in my community with my people, I might talk and act a little more calmly. I might be more of myself genuinely because without fear of anything happening to me. But as soon as I step into a space that I know is white, naturally, without thinking about it, my mind, the way I talk, the way I act, it switches because I don't know what's going to happen. I already know there's bias in this space. Like, I already know. So when I come in, naturally, I'm trying to defeat your bias, and I'm trying to be the best version that I can be. But I know what that means. Like, I have to appease you. I hate that it happens. I hate that that's what it has to be. But naturally, I'm code switching to appease the space I'm in.